Honkai Star Rail version 4.2 is just around the corner, at least as of recording this video. And in it, we're getting a ton of changes and updates that I think everyone was hoping for. But one of the biggest changes, and one that I haven't seen enough people talking about yet, is the adjustment to the Celestial Invitation. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Celestial Invitation is, it's this little button in the corner of the rate up banner that allows you to choose who you can lose your 50-50 to. And in version 4.2, we are getting an additional 3 new characters to that pool. We're going to be getting Silverwolf, Yunli, and Argenti all added to the 50-50 loss pool, at least potentially. And because of these new additions, I think it's time that we re-examine what the best 7 characters to put on this lineup are for new players and already existing players in Honkai Star Rail. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's go over which 5 stars you should be picking. So first I'm gonna go over where each character excels and then sort of rate them. So let's start off with the new characters. First up, Argenti. Now this is Argenti, and when he first released, I thought his aesthetic was pretty cool, but honestly, power level wise, I think people were hoping for a little bit more. Argenti released during a time when every character that had come out previously was catered towards Memory of Chaos, and Argenti himself seemed to be catered towards Pure Fiction, which was a game mode that came later. For that reason, a lot of people ended up skipping him because the game mode that he was supposed to be exceptionally good in wasn't even out yet. And even after the game mode came out, while he felt solid for it, there were other characters that could achieve his goals. This was around the time we found out Herta here had a secret agenda that was to blow up every bird in a 10,000-mile radius in endgame content. Seriously though, because this 4-star Herta was so good for Pure Fiction, everyone basically just said to skip Argenti. Because ultimately at the end of the day, what was the point in spending pulls on a character like this when there was a 4-star that could do it better in a lot of situations? And additionally, there was also a standard 5-star who could also blow up Pure Fiction really easily. Argenti still hasn't received any sort of external buffs like a Nova Flare or anything similar. So as a result of that, he still is a Pure Fiction bot, but they also have increased the HP in Pure Fiction, which makes me personally feel like he does have some value there, but maybe not as much as he used to, especially with so many other characters coming out being good in every endgame mode, including Pure Fiction. For that reason, I do feel like he is a pretty solid pickup, but I don't want to necessarily say that he's one that you should absolutely be going for, and he's one that I would prioritize after getting a couple of the other characters if you're an already existing player. However, if you're a newer player, he's probably high priority. I'll put him in the B tier for now. Now let's talk about Yunli. Yunli is one of the other new characters they're adding to the Celestial Invitation pool, and she is the second barefoot physical destruction character in the game. I don't know what it is with these guys and feet, but you know what? I'm just not gonna question it. Now, Yunli largely fills a similar role to Clara, except she's a lot more fun and engaging to play. This is the first parry character added to a turn-based game without parries, and Expedition 33 would be proud. Actually, probably not. The parry window is so large. Yunli was highly capable in Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction when she released because of how big her AoE damage can be when she's being played right and takes advantage of her counters. However, with that said, she really did just become Clara Pro Max, and for that reason, if you're not playing Clara already, you may not exactly have a reason to play Yunli either. For her time, she's definitely not a bad DPS, however, she definitely doesn't hold up to what a lot of the newer characters are pumping. Does that mean she can't clear endgame? Absolutely not, but it's definitely going to be tougher for a character like Yunli to clear endgame than some of the newer DPS. So with that in mind, I'm also going to be putting Yunli in the B tier here because she's not a bad choice, but she's definitely not the best choice either. Now, the next character that's being added to the pool is Silverwolf, and I think that this is probably one of the most exciting characters. Regular old Silverwolf here, not Superwolf, is an incredibly powerful character because she was one of the few characters that actually has been buffed. During the 1.0 version of the game, which was so long ago, her ultimate would only target one enemy, and that would make it so that even though you could get a huge defense reduction on them, it wasn't always worth bringing her over someone like Pela, who could defend shred multiple enemies at the same time, almost as high as Silverwolf's. Due to her many buffs that she's received over time, she's become a significantly better character. Silverwolf's base chance to inflict bugs, which are debuffs on speed, attack, and defense on enemies, have increased. She starts the battle with energy. She gets bonus attack based on her effect hit rate, which means she does more damage. She has a higher base chance of inflicting defense shred on enemies, a higher chance of her skill working too, and it prioritizes the leftmost character in the party for implanting weaknesses. In addition to that, the weakness implant on the single target will transfer to other enemies after the initial enemy has been defeated. Silverwolf's ability to defend shred has gotten significantly better. She has lower effect hit requirements, and she does more damage now, making her an exceptionally good pick. And because of that, I would highly recommend adding Silverwolf to your pool because she's an incredibly good character even to this day. Next up is Clara. I mean, there's just no point. To put it simply, Yunli is Clara Pro Max. So Clara just has like no value here anymore. Unfortunately, there was barefoot power creep, and now Clara is just not worth putting on your list anymore, unless you're like collecting feet or something, which you know, I don't want to know about it. Don't tell me about it. Let's talk about Gepard. Now, Gepard was a character that was really interesting for a long time, because for so long you had to have him for different kinds of content due to how much damage you would take. He was basically AoE March 7th, except his shield came out on his ultimate, and people were constantly trying to find ways to loop his ultimate as much as possible to get as much shield as possible. And up until Xuan came out, who decided to split damage without applying a shield, Gepard was basically the only preservation character that was worth using, because your other option was March 7th, and she could shield one ally at a time. Now, unfortunately, his shields are not that strong, especially in newer content, and as soon as they added Aventurine to the game, Gepard basically fell off a cliff. Not only that, now we have Daniel for the preservation slot, and overall, there's not really a reason to go for Gepard anymore unless you are never pulling Aventurine or getting Dan Heng, and there have been opportunities to get Aventurine and Dan Heng free already, and I doubt that they're not going to have another one of those in the future. Overall, since he is the only standard shielder you can get on this banner, I can't put him in the lowest tier possible, but I definitely think that you should be going for a different preservation character, because even if he's the only preservation on your account, you might just be better off with healer's dog. Bailu is kind of in a similar position, except Bailu got replaced by many healers. Now, personally, I've kept Bailu at level 1 because this shit genuinely pisses me off. Like, there's no way. But Bailu is essentially an RNG healer whose skill can heal a single ally and then bounces to your other allies. But the problem with this is that it doesn't prioritize any particular allies, and it's completely random. One good thing that Bailu has is that she's able to revive an ally when they're down, and in addition to that, she does have some damage mitigation, so that can be quite helpful. However, if you don't have multiple copies of Bailu, if you're just using her at E0, she does get outpaced by a majority of the new healers in the game, including Huohuo, who is going to be free with your Golden Companion Spirit if you don't have her already. The thing to remember with healers is that you're not just comparing raw healing numbers, you're comparing what else the healer can actually do for you, and in Bailu's case, she gives you a little bit of damage reduction, but in Huohuo's case, she gives you energy and attack. In Hyacinth's case, she gives you the nuclear codes, and even characters like Locha can cleanse allies, which I haven't seen anybody use this guy in 300 years, and he could really use some buffs, but without a doubt, that cleanse makes a huge difference. I will say if Bailu could cleanse, she'd probably be higher up, but as she is right now, I'm putting her in C tier along with Gepard. Now, Seele is a character who actually just got a buff recently, and I think that makes ranking her a little bit more exciting. She's one of my favorite characters in Honkai Star Rail, and the fact that she got buffs this patch is amazing. The buffs have made her able to attack significantly more frequently, and they've also increased her raw multipliers as well, meaning that overall she should just hold up better in new content. Now, the biggest problem with Seele right now is that all of the content focused on elation doesn't favor her, and this is kind of going to be a problem for every single older character that gets buffed, where if their gimmick doesn't get adjusted to work in new content, even if they're doing higher damage numbers, they're not going to be able to go beat the boss that specifically requires you to proc Aha or break an enemy that doesn't have a quantum weakness or something like that. With that said though, there were people that were zero cycling with Seele all the way up till the 3.x series, and now that she's buffed, you can expect to see a lot more people clearing with her. I think she's an awesome character, and I think for new players, she might even be S tier here, but I'm gonna say for a majority of people, she's probably A tier, just in that she's a very strong DPS now, but she's not able to compete in newer content, which is kind of the important thing, but she can also clear out pure fiction pretty dang well, especially with all of the extra skills that she gets, and I'd prefer her to the other two options. Now, Bronya is a little bit of a weird one because her value hasn't diminished at all. However, we've gotten a ton of new characters that have just done her job better. Bronya is a character that you can use to action forward allies on your team, and during that action forward, you can not only cleanse them, but you can also buff the hell out of them. Now, one of the biggest problems with Bronya is that her buff only lasts for one turn, and because of that short-term buff, a lot of characters actually lose it very quickly, especially if they're characters that want to take multiple turns. This and the fact that she doesn't really work super well with memo sprites has led to her fall off as of Amphorius in favor of Sunday, who's able to do everything Bronya does, but better. In addition to that, Bronya is SP negative, whereas Sunday can actually generate SP back for you with a signature light cone, so that way he's not nearly as harmful to your SP. Now, Bronya does have some free-to-play solutions to this, like her signature light cone that you can pull in the standard banner, which will give you some energy regen and also give you a skill point back once you use your ultimate on an ally, but it can only be triggered once every 2 uses of her ultimate, which means that you're likely only getting 1 to 2 skill points back per run anyways. anyways. So Bronya overall is a very strong character, but she definitely can't keep up with a lot of the newer characters that have come out. And overall, she's gonna need some buffs to make it so that her buffs get extended if she wants to retain her S rank, but I would for now just put her in the A rank. Exceptionally good character, but her time has come. There's so many other supports in the game that are exceptionally good, and potentially even characters that you might want to pull over her now. This does not mean she's bad now, but she just needs a little bit more help to find her place in the meta again. All right, now we have Yanking. Hasn't received any buffs. Single target ice hunt character. Basically falls over and dies like it's nothing, and then gets like no damage if he gets touched a single time. Yeah, you guys already know where he's going. Blade! This guy is one of the coolest men in the entire game because, you know, I love an edgy man who wants to die. This guy's really cool. He actually got a series of buffs that helped him get more HP scaling and just overall made him hit way harder. Some of his buffs also made it so that whenever he uses his skill, he actually gets increased aggro, so enemies are more likely to target him, which also gives him more charges and makes him an instantly better character. Now, in addition to that, during Amphorius, we got a lot of characters that play around with HP, like Evernight, Hyacinth with her signature light cone, Castris, who literally wants to eat your HP all the time, and we also got bosses that literally siphon your health. All of these things in tandem made Blade a significantly better character during Amphorius, and it was kind of awesome. If you have the right supports for him, he's a significantly better damage dealer, and this applies to MOC and Pure Fiction. However, even without them, he is still going to be a very solid DPS character. I would put him up in A tier with Seele here, but again, the same issue that Seele has where he's not really super good in current content. He's just a lot better than he used to be. All right, now we got to talk about Fuda. Xuan is a very strong character when she first released, but now she has quite a few drawbacks that we're noticing as enemies get even stronger. Essentially, she's a preservation character that doesn't necessarily shield you, but instead she shares damage that you take and splits it amongst your team and herself. And then she also will heal herself with her ultimate by adding 1 trigger count to her HP restore talent. Overall, her damage splitting abilities and her damage reduction are incredible. However, she's not necessarily as good as she used to be just because of how much more damage enemies are doing to you in endgame. With that said, a majority of the content that's in the game that's not necessarily super high endgame content, she's actually still pretty good for. So between the two preservation characters, I'm more inclined to put her in A or B tier. For now, I'll put her in A tier because I do think that for a majority of content in the game, she's still pretty good. However, if we were to just look at endgame content, I might put her more in the B tier. Next up is Himeko, and I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Wow, isn't that the girl who died in chapter 9? An exceptionally good pure fiction character, and ever since all of the new additions to Break Effect and Super Break teams have been introduced, she has gotten significantly better. She's an incredible unit in pure fiction, and in some break-focused endgames, she can even still be pretty dang good. Himeko is a character that ages very well, ages like a fine wine, and never falls off, unless you're in chapter 9 of Honkai Impact. So this one's nice and easy. I'm gonna put her up in the A tier because I do think she's a fantastic character and still holds up to this day. And lastly, we have Giga Dad. Welt is one of the lucky recipients of the Nova Flare buffs, and his Nova Flare buffs are so significant that this guy has moved from a solid D tier to potentially the highest tier for a standard character to be. Not only is Welt able to shred defense up to 40% on enemies, but he's also able to delay their actions, dish out a ton more damage on his own, and allow your teammates to deal up to 100% more damage to those enemies as well. Now, most people won't actually reach that 100%, but it's just a possibility. In addition to that, his Eidolons got updated, so now his E4 is going to provide a 30% res pen to your entire team and helps your entire team significantly. Now, that is with Eidolons. However, I do want to make it very clear, his E0 is significantly better now. Though he's not necessarily a sustainer like they could have made him, which would have been really cool for a Nihility character, the damage that he's able to add to the team due to his defense shred and due to the damage he's able to add to other characters, as well as his own personal damage, is very significant now. And overall, for Welt nowadays, even at E0, I would put him up in the S tier because I think he and Silverwolf are both incredibly powerful characters that every single person should have on their Celestial Invitation. So you guys might be wondering, okay, so how do I pick who to actually bring on here though? Because obviously there aren't 7, oh wait, there actually are exactly 7 characters here that you could just, yeah, you could just pick these 7. Well, case closed. Subscribe for more videos. Nah, I'm just kidding. But overall, I would definitely make sure to put Welt and Himeko here because I do think that these are 2 characters that you're absolutely going to want, whether you're a new player or an old player. A pure fiction monster, break monster. Welt is a crazy powerful character now. And alongside these 2, I would also put Silverwolf, but because I'm on the main server right now, she's not actually here. So just imagine Silverwolf like right here at the end. Bronya is also a character that I would highly recommend anyone that is going to be doing limited polls and has a chance to lose their 50-50 on, puts onto the Celestial Invitation. She is still a very solid character, and if you do happen to get her at E6, you can actually increase the damage boost effect by her skill by 1 extra turn. So you you can make it 2 turns. You can make her a significantly better character by getting the last copy. As for the others, Seele with her buffs is absolutely crazy now, and much better than some of the other DPS options you have. Now that Blade has so many more characters that work with him in terms of supports, specifically in HP focused teams like Triby's team or Castoris, Jingliu as well, who I didn't mention the first time, he is a significantly more viable pick. But I actually am going to stray from the tier list I made a little bit earlier and mention that if you don't have any of those HP characters and you don't plan on picking them up, Yunli can also be an okay fill in here. But I personally would still pick Blade due to the buffs. Lastly, I would probably pick Xuan over Gepard personally, but if you don't have any shielders and you really just want to make sure that you can cover yourself in some way, shape, or form, Gepard still can get you through a lot of the stuff in the game, probably just not the end game content. Xuan does struggle with that a little bit due to the amount of damage that goes out, but she still is able to hold up fairly well. And this is Silverwolf. You know, I can't see it on my screen, but editor's gonna do some magic, and now there's gonna be a Silverwolf here. It's gonna be crazy. One other note that I have is that if you guys actually have any E6 characters or characters that are close to E6, like for me, my only E6 standard character is fucking Bailu, you can also include these characters over your lowest pick, because getting one of these characters after E6 will get you a gold companion spirit, and they have actually just added 2 new amazing characters to the golden companion spirit shop. Right now you can get a copy of Ruan Mei, who can actually be significantly better with her Eidolons, or Topaz and Numbi, though I don't know many people who are picking these 2 up. But in addition to that, in version 4.2 you can actually get Robin and Huoho, and if you don't have either of those characters, I would highly recommend getting both of them, though you could probably hold off on Robin if you want to just wait and see what the next meta brings. Huoho, however, seems like she's going to be universally good for a very long time. Reason being, her ultimate gives you a huge attack buff and gives you energy. So long as we don't have a meta that is all about not having regular energy bars, Huoho is going to be very good, and even if there wasn't the energy passive, that attack buff is absolutely huge. On top of that, she's able to constantly cleanse. Those Nova Flare buffs actually did a lot for her. A lot of people are shitting on Huoho right now, but they actually have no idea what they're talking about. This might be the most doomed character I've seen in 4.2. It's crazy. So if you do have any E6 characters, you can put them on there. Try to get 2 silver companion spirits, convert them to gold, and pick characters from here, or get Eidolons for them, like Welts, for example. With that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe for more HSR content. And I hope you guys are looking forward to 4.2 as much as I am. If it's already here when you're watching this video, then I hope you're enjoying. I'll catch you guys next time.